this time. There you go.
Yes, bro.
So, Hare
Yes.
Krishna, good evening and greetings to all of you. I'm sorry for the slight delayed start. There was a technical glitch in my laptop, which is fixed now, hopefully. And with the blessings of all of you, and especially the speaker of Bhagavad Gita, not me, Lord Krishna himself, we'll take the blessings so that the next 1 hour or so we are having a trouble-free, discussion across one another. So, welcome to the systematic study of Gita Amritam Rasamalayam. Today we are on session 23, and as you know, we are on chapter 3, which is Karma Yoga or Yoga of Action. And we are in a very, very important section today because Lord Krishna is going to give a lot of uh, instructions in a way that it's going to be uh, hammering upon certain aspects that also bother us. So Arjuna is asking the pertinent questions which are absolutely relevant to our day-to-day lives, and we'll see how well Krishna helps to answer that. And not only that, how it is going to help us make progress in our spiritual development. And more importantly, it will help us to understand the other person, and it will help our dealings with him as well. So these are the important learnings that we will try to learn from today's verses, which is going to be from verse 33 to 38. So let's begin with our customary prayers. So let me pray to my beloved Guru Maharaj, Dr. T.D. Singh, His Holiness Bhakti Swarup Damasai Maharaj, who is the founding director of Bhaktivedanta Institute, the scientific arm of ISKCON, and which is propagating these teachings of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, etc., in a scientific way, so that intellectuals from various streams, especially young intellectuals, can understand in their terms. And that's a Samadhi Mandir. So I seek the blessings of my Guru Maharaj. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Swarupa Damodar Swami Iti Namine. Namasad Bhaktamani Manipur Udbhavaya Cha Srila Prabhupada Lasatavani Pracharine Ratayate. Jai Shri. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So, this we have already shown you several times. The tree for chapter 3, out of which the T, R, and the first E are more or less done. Some part of the first E is exemplary karma yogi, which E stands for exemplary karma yogi, still remaining because that goes up to verse 35, and today we are covering 33 onwards. And then, of course, we will go into a new theme, which is the last E of tree, that is enemy of the soul. And that is where we will put a lot of focus today because we are all battling with this enemy, and how to turn it around through the knowledge of the scripture. We will see that what is that enemy and how it can be turned around. So before that, a very quick recap of last session by Shyam Sundar Rauji, that is session 22 last Saturday, where he covered verses 3.25 to 3.32. So very quickly, I shall go through this part where 25 spoke about attached worker versus detached worker. So attached worker is somebody who is a fruitive worker, or you can say a karma kandi, or somebody who is also termed as an ignorant person. Ignorant because he is lacking in knowledge. One second. Let me pin myself. 1 second. Yes, that's more like it. So, So attached worker is considered to be little ignorant because he is devoid of spiritual knowledge, scriptural knowledge. He acts whimsically. He acts mainly in a very selfish way, and he acts with keeping profit in mind. All the time he thinks of how I can make profit. And on the other hand, there is somebody who is a detached worker, and detached worker is a learned person who externally appears to be working in a similar way, uh, like the attached worker. So his activities will look more or less similar, but he is detached. He detached from the fruits, and he is basically, he's because he's not ignorant, he is knowledgeable, and therefore he has the ability to lead people, on the right path. Like there was a mention of Loka Sangraham Chikrisu. So Loka Sangraham Chikrisu means he is supposed to be the right leader. He will show those qualities which will automatically attract towards people because he'll be selfless, and he'll be completely detached from the activities. At the same time, he will excel in doing this activity also. So therefore he is called as asakta karmani. He works like so. He's vidvamsa. He's knowledgeable. And of course, in verse 26, 3.26, Krishna gives a very instructive knowledge. He says that na buddhi bhedam janayet. So na buddhi bhedam janayet is primarily do not disturb the mind of others. That means, let's say there are two people. One is a knowledgeable person on the scriptures, one is not so knowledgeable in scriptures. So the knowledgeable person should not think that because he is more knowledgeable, I have the right to instruct a less knowledgeable person and therefore direct him to do a particular way. No. So that is not appreciated. Krishna says, don't do that. Instead, what we have to try to do is that try to elevate his consciousness gradually by asking him to, like showing him the way. A leader normally knows the way, shows the way, goes the way. So he shows the way. So by that, what we mean is that he sort of encourages him to dovetail his activities, that is the skills and all the qualities that he's possessing in the service of the Lord. So there was a good example that Shyam Rao shared about Govind and Gopal. So that was, if people remember that example, that is a very nice example of the potter and the farmer. How how the farmer showed the potter that you can be a good potter, do the same skills at the same time, utilize it for the service of the Lord. So na buddhi bedem. So we don't try to disturb the mind. Instead, we try to encourage the person. And that is what the learned person is supposed to do. And the best person we spoke about is Srila Prabhupada himself. He was excellent in tapping the skills of his disciples. He knew what is the strength of every person. Like somebody was a good artist, somebody was a good singer, somebody was a good painter, somebody was a good speaker, orator. So he utilized all of them. Somebody was a good writer. So he utilized all of them in their skills in the service of the Lord. The best example that comes to my mind is Jadurani Mataji. Jadurani Mataji, most of the Krishna conscious paintings that we see in ISKCON were painted during those days by Her Grace Jadurani Mataji. She's an excellent painter, an excellent artist. So Prabhupada very nicely, encouraged her to use that skill for painting the pictures of Krishna, for painting the pastimes of the Lord, so that by looking at the pastimes, one can actually be immersed in it, and therefore bhakti can automatically, you get a feeling that when by looking at the picture, there is some life in that picture, and you directly get connected to Krishna consciousness. So that's the beauty of the skill of the person, but very nicely utilized and dovetailed in the service of the Lord by Prabhupada. And then 3.27 spoke about how an ignorant person uh, thinks himself to be the doer when actually there are so many factors which are helping him to do the things. And the example that Shyam Sundar Rao gave was of the wood cutter and the axe. A wood cutter is cutting the tree, but he cannot take the credit that he has cut the tree. There is a lot of other things also. There is an axe, and that axe has got certain sharpness. That has also contributed, apart other things. So there is a due credit for the axe, but obviously the axe is not a living being, so the axe cannot claim a credit. But the woodcutter should know that uh, somebody encouraged me to do this, somebody facilitated me to do this, and then this axe in the end, it is a tool that I had. So that tool I could purchase and I could do that. So whereas an ignorant person will think that he is the whole and soul. Whatever success comes, he will try to take credit for that. That's a sign of ignorant person. So that is not the way we should think. And that is a way actually most of us have come through in life, because we have been encouraged from childhood. We have got credit for small small things. So automatically, the child gets encouraged that and pat behind the back for the success. But the child should also be groomed by the parents and the teacher, that acknowledge, show the gratitude to your co-workers, to the colleagues, to your friends who may have helped you. Small, small bits and pieces. Your relatives could have helped you. So we should have gratitude towards all that. Nature, the nature could have helped you. At that time, the wind was good. I was driving nicely, and suddenly the sun came out, and everything went well, and I reached in time. But there are certain other factors which contributed. So we have to take a holistic approach in life, and try to see and give credit where it is due to others also. That is a sign of a person who is in knowledge. Whereas an ignorant person will always think that mine, and therefore he thinks that I am the doer. Prakriti kriyamanani gunek karmani karvasa ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti anyate. So he thinks that, and this the cause for that is ahankar. Clearly it is said in Bhagavad Gita, ahankar. That means the ego, the false ego, that is actually coming in the front, and it is making him think that he is the doer. So that has to be corrected. And then, of course, verses 28 and 29, where there was a good example about how the tattvavit or knowledgeable person, he doesn't engage himself in unnecessary things like sense gratification, and understands the difference between working in devotion and working for fruitive work. So externally, both will look similar, but in one case, the work is done with an expression that, oh Krishna, if it were not for you, I am actually helpless. I'm only zero, and you are that one. By adding that one, I become 10, and from 10 I become 100. From 100 I become 1,000. But if you're not there, that one goes away. I'm just zero. That is the way that a learned person or a tattvavit starts thinking. So he gives credit to Krishna. So he will perform a normal activity. He will do a normal 9 to 5 job. She can be a housewife at home and do a perfect job. So because the mind and the thought process is that I am working for Krishna, I am an employee of Krishna. So the whole purification process is totally, it takes a different dimension altogether. So that is a knowledge of Tattvavit's Lakshan. And then, of course, verse 30, it is mentioned that Krishna gives the first glimpse of actually Bhakti Yoga in Karma Yoga. So he says what? Mayi Sarvani Karmani. That's very, very important instructive verse. Mayi Sarvani Karmani. That means do your duty depending upon me, O Arjuna. Leave everything. Don't worry about the fruits, but you depend completely upon me. Mayi Sarvani Karmani. That's a very, very instructive verse. So this is again, as the person gets more and more knowledgeable, then the Karma Yoga slowly, without the knowledge, manifests into Bhakti Yoga. At that time, the person starts virtually pursuing Krishna in everything. Unexpected quarters help will come for him. What looked like a mountain of a problem suddenly will disappear in a corporate meeting, and impossible things becomes possible. All that is because the person's mind is completely absorbed in Krishna, but activity also he performs suitably. So that is verse 30. And then, of course, 31, Krishna says, 30 and 31, sorry, 31 and 32, there are two things. So in 31, he says, what is the result of following my teachings? So Krishna says, what is the result of following my teachings? Most important thing is that person who follows my teaching, my instructions, what happens is he gets freedom from karma bandhan. Karma bhi muchyate. Karma bhi muchyante. He completely is freed from the bondage of this karmic reaction. And that is, dear devotees, is the goal of our life. What is that? To come out of the cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. Because if we are influenced by the laws of karma, we will keep taking repeated births, repeated death, and we will face all these karmic reactions again and again and again. And it is never ending. It is never ending. It's since time immemorial, this keeps on going on and on. So Krishna says, if you follow my teachings, then you are free, get freedom from karma bandhan. And then in 32, he says, the result of not following is that such a person is completely devoid of knowledge, and he's always discriminating things. He gets befooled, and his life is ultimately ruined. So that is the other extreme of people who are not following literature. So with this background, the background is important because then there is a continuity of what we discuss in today's context. So the theme for today's verses 33 to 35 will be, Krishna is saying that one must work according to one's own nature. That is, we all have our own nature, svabhava. So better to stick to our own nature and don't try to copy somebody else. So in 33, he says that we already have a deep rooted conditioned nature, and in 34, he says, if you follow your own nature and follow the prescribed duties, you get gradual elevation in consciousness, you get gradual purification. And in 35, he says that do your duties, do your prescribed duties. Don't try to imitate others. Okay? Because it might look that other side of the grass is always green. So it might look as if, if I do that, his job, I might do better than him. So that is not the right approach. You have to find out what is your core strength, stick to that, and then you try to dovetail. So don't imitate, do your duty. And then from 36 to 43 till the end of the chapter, that is, it is a theme is completely on the greatest enemy. So Arjuna poses a question in 36, oh Krishna, what is that enemy? And in 37, Krishna answers that enemy. And in 38, there are degrees of that particular enemy, how it is affecting us in the our day-to-day activities and our life in totally. So now we come to verse 33. We start the day with verse 33. And so this verse goes like this. Sadrisam cheshtate swasya prakrte jnanavanapi prakritim yanti bhutani nigraha kim karishyati. So, see, in the previous verse, Krishna spoke about those people who don't have faith, and are envious of his injunctions, or when he says my injunctions, Krishna's injunctions. So, injunctions given by Krishna, there are people who don't follow, and then they don't have faith also. So, Krishna, logically, Arjuna might be having a question. Will such a person who is aware of the punishments of sinful actions not be afraid of committing sins? So it's logical. See, when Krishna is saying that if you don't follow my instruction, these are the things you will face. So Arjuna has a question in mind that if they already know of the sinful reactions, so why are they not afraid of committing the sinful activities? So what is the problem then? So therefore, Krishna is giving a very, very matured understanding to all of us by teaching Arjuna this particular verse. And dear devotees, if we understand this sloka, this verse, and a few later slokas, trust me, it will be very, very easy for us to understand and to deal with different kinds of people around us. because whatever we see, is on the gross level. That means we see anything of a person, we are seeing him on the surface level only. But now, what Krishna is going to deal or what Krishna is going to discuss is on a more subtler platform. Okay, he's going to discuss on a more subtler platform. So when we understand the other person on a more subtler platform, then we can understand that what that person is going through. Hmm? Then it becomes very, very easy to understand that person. And of course, consequently, to deal with the person also. So that so practically this in the sloka, Krishna is continuing this theme about talking about dovetailing one's activity or one's own nature, sabhava, and doing one's own prescribed duties. So here he says, Sadrisham cheshtate swasya prakriti jnanavan api. So jnanavan api means although the person is wise and knowledgeable, what happens? Sadrisham cheshtate swasya. That means sadrisham means accordingly, cheshtate, he starts acting. This person starts acting. Swasya. Okay, how did I go off video again? So automatically my video is playing some games with me. Again, it went off. Oh, Krishna. Okay, let me see what's the problem. Integrated
You're
camera.
back again.
Yeah, but Prabhu, it's this keeps going. I don't know. I don't know
Mhm.
what's happening. Now I think okay. Oh Krishna. Now I'm back.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's some problem. I don't know what's happening. Anyway, if it goes also, we will manage it. Not a problem. So Prakartir. He says Prakartir. So Prakartir means one's own nature. So, so according to one's own nature, uh, again, I'm gone off camera, I think. It's okay. Okay, I'll continue. At least I'm audible, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, according to one's own nature, we start, but the person starts behaving or acting. So, at the next line, it says, Prakritim yanti bhutani. So, Prakritim yanti bhutani means all the living, it says yanti bhutani, all the living beings. So, also act according to their own nature. Hmm? And this is done by Prakriti. So, that means our propensity to act in a particular way is already there, and this is coming from the four classifications which are already defined by Krishna. We will see that in a short while, but next line says, the last line says, Nigraha kim karishyati. That means what will the repression? So that means nigraha means repression. So by force, if somebody tries to change it, in what way will it help? So, in other words, what Krishna is trying to say, dear devotees, is that this is not an external problem. Okay, this is basically an internal problem. As we say, in computer language, hardware and software. So this is not a hardware problem. This is basically a software problem. So Srila Prabhupada actually in his purport, of this particular sloka, uh, gives us wonderful insights how we can implement these teachings in our day-to-day lives. So let's imagine, I'll give a suitable example and then let's try to analyze this. So let's say, imagine a clay. Okay. Okay. Are you able to see the screen? You can see all the
Yes.
different forms of clay. So you can see, so just imagine a clay. And what is the speciality of the clay? We can go on changing the shape at your will. And you can do that umpteen number of times, isn't it? Like you can see here, different shapes have been made, different dolls can be made, different objects can be made. So you can go on changing. And finally, what remains is the impression of all the different shapes at different times. So the clay will manifest all that, and then at some stage, it will go become shapeless also. So similarly, if you drive this analogy to our life, we don't know from which lifetime of ours. We have had so many previous lifetimes. We don't know in which lifetime what impression has come and what impression has been left behind. Exactly like this clay. Now, if you make 10 different shapes of the clay, you will not know 10 clays before what was the shape. So at some stage, this impression is actually surfacing out, and we will not know which impression is coming at what time. So the clay is more or less analogous to our, I would say, mind, and mind has got lots of impression, all from the previous life, and therefore each of this impression is leaving some nature, and we don't know which nature is playing upon us at what time. So the question is, can I do something about it now, or I just leave it at that? No. So the answer is given in the purport of Srila Prabhupada. That's why when you read Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's instructions along with the purports of Srila Prabhupada, which are coming from a realized soul, that really puts the two together. How the realized souls think and how it can help us in our lives too. So, Srila Prabhupada says, unless one is situated in a transcendental platform of Krishna consciousness, he cannot get free from all this influence of modes of material nature. So, dear devotees, this is also confirmed by the Lord Himself in the seventh chapter, which will come. Now we are in third chapter. In the seventh chapter, 14th verse, Lord says, Daivi Hesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratyaya Mam Eva Ya Prapadyante. What is that? Maya Etam Tarantite. That means Daivi Hesha Gunamayi Mama Maya. Krishna says all this external energy is mine, under my control, and this Jivatma is trying its best. Daivesha Gunam Mama Maya Duratyaya. It's very difficult to surpass this external energy of the Lord, which is comprising of all these three gunas: Sattva guna, Rajas guna, and Tamas guna. But he says, Mam eva ye prapadyante, Maya itam tarantite. He says, one who surrenders unto me will easily be able to cross this ocean. It's ocean. Tarantite. You can swim across this ocean very easily. So the answer is given. Krishna says what is the problem, and Krishna gives a solution also. So the entire material world, dear devotees, and the three material energy, Krishna says, are my external energy, and only the surrendered souls can very easily cross this complete ocean. And then once he crosses, he'll be free from the modes of material nature. Until that time, there is no hope. So therefore, it is not enough just to be a scholar of Bhagavad Gita, because one can be a Sanskrit scholar and one can be, bookworm. One can learn all the 700 verses and just, rattle it in about 1 hour's time. That is not enough. That is good, no doubt. It's a skill, good memory power. But being a scholar doesn't mean that you are a surrendered soul of the Lord. So, and most of the educated persons in today's material world are not able to get out of the clutches of Maya. So, leave alone, I mean, even including the so-called uh, fake spiritualists. There are so many fake spiritualists who are going around, just for the sake of social media fame, and trying to get more followers, and so that. So it is not enough to do prachar, but what is more important is to do achar. That means you have to imbibe those qualities, you have to practice those qualities, and then only what will come out is the realization. And that realization is what Prabhupada is sharing in his purport also. So for example, if somebody is telling what Krishna said, but he himself is not practicing the four regulative principle. Okay, that means it is because of his acquired nature. There could be some PhDs in Vedanta sutras. There could be some PhDs in various Sanskrit and Vedic scriptures, etc. But what is the use if you yourself are conditioned under the under the influence of Maya, under the influence of the modes of external energy of the Lord? Then you will be bound by the acquired nature, and you will not be able to change yourself internally, that is the software, and you will not be able to change anyone to whom you are preaching also. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada says, only Krishna consciousness, underline these words, only Krishna consciousness can help us come out of this material entanglement. And even if we are performing our so-called routine activities, it is only Krishna consciousness that will help us repair our software problem, our inner problem. So that is our he'll repair the internal nature. He'll transform our internal nature. So that is the beauty of Krishna consciousness. So therefore, uh, Krishna says one should not give up the regular activities, because the regular activities you are doing as per your own nature. Hmm. We will see what these qualities are of, because there are certain things which are coming along in the next couple of verses, where it will be more clear and refined of who should do what kind of prescribed activities. But remember one thing, whatever activity we do, we should not do it whimsically. We should take the guidance of a superior. A superior's training is very, very important, and that superior will understand you inside out. He will understand your nature, your psychophysical nature, and accordingly, he will suggest to you what sort of activities you must perform for the pleasure of the Lord. So, in this way, it's like a diseased person going to a doctor. Similarly, we are all diseased. We need to go to a spiritual doctor. And that spiritual doctor is definitely our spiritual master. And he will tell us what our problem is. If required, he can even twist our ears. He can even guide us. He can tell you this is where you're going wrong. So we need that on a day-to-day basis, and then perform our routine activities. So therefore, it is Sadrisyam Chestase Swasya Prakrtir Jnanavan Api Prakritim Yanti Bhutani Nigraha Kim Karishyati. This is very, very important verse. And now we go to the verse number 34, which is giving us some instructions about how our Vedic scriptures are so, foolproof to make to help us for gradual purification. So let's see what is that verse. इंद्रिया इंद्रियासर्ते रागद्वेष व्यवस्थितो तयो न वशम् आगच्छेत् तौ हि यस्य परिपन्तिनो तौ हि यस्य परिपन्तिनो. So here, you know, again, Arjuna might be having, after hearing the previous verse that, we should perform the duties as per our sabha nature. Arjuna might think that, okay, Krishna, if you are saying it's a software problem and not a hardware problem of us, then why at all we need the injunctions of the Shastras? Because it appears to me that it could be useless, because people are anyway going to act as per their acquired nature. The acquired nature we cannot change. So please, can you clarify this? So therefore, Krishna clarifies this in this particular verse. Indriya indriyaste, Indriya indriyas arte. That means there are two times there is emphasis on indriyas, indriyas. That is the first indriyasya stands for senses, and second indriyasya stands for sense objects. So we have the various senses. All senses are covered in this. The 10 senses that we know. Five knowledge acquiring senses and five working senses. And each of these knowledge acquiring senses have got a corresponding sense object. So when the sense and sense object are connected, that is where we are actually executing our task through the working senses. And so, indriyaste arte. That means the word Indriya means that we are trying to, there is some desire coming to achieve a sense object. We have some desire, that is through our senses, we are trying to achieve our sense object. And Raga Dvesha Vyavastito, that means there exists, Krishna says, Raga and Dvesha. Raga is what? Attraction. Attraction to a particular sense object. And Dvesha is aversion. So aversion could be if somebody is trying to take away that sense object from you, then there can be aversion. Or if that particular sense object is not of your liking, then you could be aversion to that particular object. So aversion could be for an object and also for the person who is actually trying to uh, take away what you like. So let's see the translation. Krishna says there are principles to regulate attachment and aversion. That is raga and dvesha. There are principles pertaining to sense and their sense objects. Indriya, indriyas arte. So one should not come under the control of such attachments and aversions. Tayorna vasham agachet. One should not come under that control. Why? Tauyasya paripantino. Because they are like stumbling blocks. Krishna says, in the path of self-realization. Okay, so it is paripantino, stumbling blocks. So very, very clear instructions Krishna says to Arjuna. And we can understand this better when we understand what Srila Prabhupada explains in his purport. So Prabhupada says that we have a tendency to to basically enjoy the senses. There's no truth, otherwise we would not be in this material world. Material world means primarily Krishna has created this material world. Sometimes people ask, why Krishna has created this material world? So material world is for the people who wanted to enjoy independent of Krishna. Okay, then he has created a material world, you go and enjoy. And you want to forget me? Okay, forget me. And you stay there eternally in the material world. Both happiness, suffering, everything you will get. So there are sense objects and your senses you can use to enjoy the sense objects. But there are, consequences also of that. So basically, that's why the scriptures are coming the way. So the scriptures are basically giving us something called as a regulations. They are like a compound wall in the building. The compound wall of the building is not something to be seen as a restriction. A compound wall is to be seen as a something that is for your safety, for your security. So similarly, revealed scriptures are not like you follow the rules and regulations. They are not like restrictions for you. The rules and regulations are primarily to protect your interest in the larger frame of work. So many a times people feel that it's a restriction and I want freedom from this restriction. But sadly, they don't know what the real freedom is. Hmm? The actual freedom is to be bound by with this rules and regulations. Why? Because they are actually protecting you. And when they are protecting you, when you are bound by the rules and regulations, then actually we are out of the three modes of material nature, and that is a real freedom. So either you have a choice of either not getting bound by the rules and regulations of the scriptures, but then you will be bound by the modes of material nature for eternally. You will be completely caught. Second option is you get bound by the rules and regulations of the scriptures, but then you are completely free from the three modes of material nature in the long run. So that is a real freedom. So this is what actually Prabhupada is trying to hammer in the purport, and that is what Krishna is trying to give this knowledge to Arjuna. So, I mean, to give a very simple example, now here there is a picture I have shown here of a traditional Hindu marriage, hmm? Or like I can say, Biva Yagya. Now, in a Hindu marriage or Biva, there is a typical Yagya, and we follow certain customary practices. And the Yagya is basically what? Agni. Agni is a personality. So, as per the rules and regulations of the scriptures, we do the Satfera of the Agni, and we take vows in front of the Agni, in front of all the elders who are sitting there. And we take vows in such a way that the husband takes vows that he'll remain chaste throughout his life. to his wife, and the wife takes promise that she will remain chaste. She will not commit any unchaste activities towards her husband. So that's a vow, and that's so sacred. So therefore, vivaha becomes very, very sacred. So, dear friends, is that a restriction? No. We are actually making the marriage already the rules and regulations, as per the rules and regulations, because it's becoming more and more sacred. So, and the injunctions would say that within the framework of marriage, one can have sex, and the sex can be had for the procreation of children, and it is not for indiscriminate, violation of the principle. Okay, because it's very, very important that these rules and regulations which are mentioned are given for a particular purpose. Now, if you compare this our traditional vivaha yagya with, say, a Western marriage, where there is no binding, nothing, and you will find that okay, marriage has taken place, they take vows also, but there is no sanctity to that marriage, and as a result you find that there is no chastity also remaining in the marriage. This is very clear in Western world. Husband doesn't remain chaste to his wife, and vice versa also is true, and they have illicit relationship across while they are in the married life. So this is rampant. So in the process, what happens is you get more and more bound by the modes of material nature, and you will eternally remain in this material world. You can never get out of this material world. So therefore, these regulative principles are not only it is meant to regularize our our activities, but also it is to safeguard so that we do not indulge in excessive sense gratification, and whatever sense gratification we are engaging in, they have got a certain purpose behind it. Srila Prabhupada in his purport gives a wonderful examples that even on the royal roads there can be accidents. It is not guaranteed that the roads are so wide and they are royal and there will be no accidents. Because what happens is sometimes, and that's what this third line, Tayorna Vasam Agachit. That means if you one should not come under the control of the attachment and aversion, that is of the rules and regulations. One should not become. So rules and regulations are meant to control our raga and dvesha. But now what happens is the rules and regulations give certain allowance. But if you abuse the allowance and then you start misusing the allowance, then you lead into accidents even on the royal roads. So therefore, the person who is in Krishna conscious, or who is properly exposed to the teachings based on the guidance of his spiritual master, he takes the governing principles as anukulasya sankalpa pratikulasya varjanam. Okay, and because he knows that rakshishyati vishwaso. So anukulasya sankalpa means what? Whatever is favorable for my spiritual growth, I take that. Pratikulasya varjanam. Whatever is unfavorable for my spiritual growth, I will reject that. I'll not waste my time on that. And in doing this through Anukulas Sankalpa and Pratikulas Varjanam, I will have faith in Krishna. Because I would say that if Krishna will protect me, Rakshishyati Vishwaso, he will protect me. He is the cause of all causes. So why worry? He will protect me. So therefore, this confidence comes to us from the service to the spiritual master. And the spiritual master will, even if we are going astray, the spiritual master will bring us back on track, and he will ensure that the stumbling blocks are removed, because these stumbling blocks are the cause for our material engagement. We have to come out of this material engagement. So that is very, very important. Therefore, the spiritual master plays a very, very vital role. Let's go to the next verse number 35. So now Arjuna might ask, okay, if one adopts in that case, what I can do is let me adopt somebody else's duties. Okay, because I have a choice to do violent activity, I have a choice to do non-violent activity. So I don't want to fight. I will choose the non-violent activity. and I will not go for the battle. I can pick this particular duty and follow. That's what is. That means, in other words, the natural Sabha. Now, Arjuna is a Kshatriya. The Kshatriya are by nature violent, but he says, I will not fight. I'll choose, if there's an option, I'll choose non-violence. And non-violence is the duty of a Brahmana. So Vedic injunctions are giving both violence and non-violence. So let me choose the non-violence path of a Brahmana. Then what is the problem, Krishna? So Krishna now says, Oh Arjuna, and he tells in a very instructive way that the shoe that fits one person can bite another. So what is that verse? It is this. Shreyan swadharmo vigunaha paradharma swa anushtitat swadharme nidanam shreyah paradharma bhayavayaha. So paradharmo bhayavaha. So what it means? So Shreyan swadharmo viguna. That means one's own prescribed duties, swadharma, vigunaha. That means even if you do in an imperfect way or a faulty way, it is much shreya. Shreya means it's much better than what? Para dharmatsva anustitat. That means than doing somebody else's duty perfectly. Anustitat means perfectly. So, doing one's own prescribed duties, even imperfectly or in a faulty way, Krishna says, is better than copying or imitating somebody else's duties and doing that in a perfect way. You see what he's saying? Because why? Swadharme nidanam shreya. That means he also further adds that while doing one's own prescribed duty, if there is nidanam means destruction. Hmm? That is also better. That is also shreya better than paradharma paya vaha. That means doing somebody else's duty is dangerous. So let's read the translation now. He says, Arjuna, it is far better to discharge one's prescribed duties, even though faulty, than another person's duty perfectly. Destruction in the course of performing one's own duty is better than engaging in another's duty. For to follow another's path is dangerous. So, this verse clearly speaks in a very, very clear way that it is better to do one's own prescribed duties rather than imitating or copying somebody else's duty. So let's try to understand this, in more detail. So first of all, this prescribed duties is coming so many times, several times. Now it's time for us to, you know, understand this prescribed duties. What is this prescribed duties? Does anybody know what is prescribed duties? Because we are all a population of mixed, race and culture and varnas and everything. But our shastras are giving some explanation. Our shastras says that these prescribed duties are pertaining to the four varnas. Four varnas means the four social orders. What are they? Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudras. There are four classifications already given, what is called as Varna Ashrama. And there are four ashramas or spiritual orders, which are called as Brahmachari, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. So, four Varnas, that is Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, and four spiritual orders of four ashramas, that is Brahmachari, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa, renounced order. So based on that, the Shastras are describing prescribed activities. That means for each Varna, the Shastras are describing prescribed activities. And these duties are given with what intention, with an intention to gradually purify the person. So for instance, let's say, so you can see Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. So Krishna says in 4.13, which will come in the next chapter, but I'm just jumping it because that is relevant to what we're discussing today. It is Krishna who has made this classification. It is not a discrimination. Most of the we are taught ill in our history books. That, I mean, this is a teaching that has come from our British people. They said that our Vedic scriptures are teaching caste system. I mean, Hinduism is all about caste system. That is bullshit. It is all wrong. What Krishna is teaching us is a classification of mankind, classification of human beings based on certain qualities and based on certain skill sets. Okay, it is not by birth. He says, Chatur Varnam Maya Sistam Guna Karma Vibhagashaha Tasya Kartaram Apima Vidyakartaram Avyayam. So, what does it mean? He says there are four types of people in mankind: Brahmana, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, and the Shudras. And they all have certain nature, inbuilt nature, that is gunas. And they have certain activities they perform, karma. So, guna and qualities, I mean, that is qualities and skill sets, they possess. For example, the Brahmana is his basic job is patan patan, yajan yajan, dana pratigraha. His job is to patan, to read the scriptures, patan, to teach the scriptures. So therefore, a person who's having Brahminical quality, who's born and is possessing these skills, he's better to become a teacher, teaching profession. And Kshatriya, Shatrayate iti Kshatriya. That means the person who is good in fighting. Fighting for what purpose? To defend. Fighting to defend. Like a king is always a Kshatriya because a king tries to defend his prajas. So therefore, such a person can become a ruler, such a person can give protection to Brahmanas and the other classifications. They can enter into military profession in the present context, military, border security force. And then the Vaishyas are very business class people. There are people who are trade merchants. There are people who are go rakshakas. There are people who are agriculturalists, who are producing milk, who are protecting cows. So these are Vaishyas, and they have good traders. So then there is Shudras. So Shudras are, have got exceptional skill sets in labor. They work through their hands and legs. They're very strong, and their physique is different. They can work. They can toil in sunshine. Too much of rain will not affect them. Too much of cold will not affect them. They are built strongly. So all these qualities are there inherent in certain kind of people, and that those people are classified, and they are called as Brahmana, Kshatriyas, Vaishya, and Shudra. It is not a caste. It is a classification based on qualities and skill set. To understand this analogy better, take our own body. Our body comprises of the head, our body comprises of the hand, our body comprises of the belly, our body comprises of the legs. The head job is to think. That is Brahmana. The job of the hand, is to give protection, strength. And the job of the belly is hunger. So the belly cannot do the job of the head cannot do the job of belly. Otherwise, there will be a big problem. And the legs are working for the remaining all four. Legs are contributing everywhere. They are strong. They help you to go move around. So can we say that I don't need the leg? No. Can we say I don't need the hands and I don't need the belly? No. And head, of course, we need. If you chop the head, you cannot even live. So every part of the body, if in this four classification, is equally important. So similarly, like Brahmana, he works in a mode of goodness. He is non-violent by nature. There is Kshatriya who is in the who is in the mode of passion. Therefore, he will have lot of violence nature, and that is conducive for fighting. We need fighters also to fight against enemies, so he can vanquish the enemies. So now, if the Brahmana, uh, gives away his duties and says, "No, I will do the job of a Kshatriya," and vice versa, then there will be a terrible mismatch, and it will be a failure. There might be exceptions. Somebody will say that I'm a Shudra, but I've learned Yagya, I can do yajna also. That is possible, but that is not his natural swabhav. You know, like for example, uh, if Arjuna with his Kshatriya qualities had gone to the forest in a renounced way, how long can he stay non-violent? How long? Because he's in a mode of passion. So automatically he will end up, in some quarrel in the forest with fighting with something else. So therefore, it is very, very important that each one of these classified people stick to their qualities. That is very, very important. And otherwise, if you try to imitate one another, then it's like, what do I say? Yeah, the best example that comes to my mind is, let's say there are two patients having different disease symptoms and they go to a common doctor. Doctor gives a prescribed set of pills to person A who has got disease symptoms A for A, and he gives different set of pills for patient B who has got different disease symptoms. Now, if both of them come together, A and B, and then they say, I think we met the same doctor and he has given us pills. Let's mix it up. I'll take your pills and you take my pill. Then what will happen? Gone. It will not work and it will have adverse effects also. So, therefore, it is very, very important that Krishna says that we have to stick to the prescribed duties. And so, the three important learnings that we come across in this theme is that one size does not fit all. If we imitate someone else without spiritual master's instruction, then we'll become whimsical, leading to self destruction. If the spiritual master is instructing a Brahmana to become a Kshatriya or even a Shudra, then he can do, and vice versa also. But without the instructions, he has to follow his Swadharma. Perform the prescribed duties always brings harmony, stability, and peace to society. This is the law of nature. And externally, it might appear that I can do someone else's prescribed duties better than him. But when we go deep dive, we realize that there is some catch. It's going to be either because we all are born with certain swabhav, and that is come from our previous samskaras and our what we acquired from all the previous impressions, the thoughts. And that's why we are particular, we are born as a Brahmana, we are born as a Kshatriya, we are born. So it's our job to nurture that further because birth is not in our control, but still we are born in that family. So now, if a Brahmana he abuses his qualities and he takes up like a Shudra, then he is actually a misfit in that particular way. So now we go to a new section and we enter into section verse number 36 because Arjuna's questions are never ending. Now that he has been given a lot of clarifications by Krishna, so he's becoming more and more practical. He's probably thinking now, okay, Krishna, I'll continue to do my prescribed duties, but is there, I mean, is it possible for me to continue this prescribed duties forever? Or is there something that will pull me back, with some desire and make me do things unwillingly? That is what is now haunting him in his mind, and he's asking this question. So now we enter into a new section from here till the end of the chapter. That is, we have to understand, identify the real enemy within us. Don't worry about the enemy outside us. Worry about the enemy within us. Because if we can understand that, if we can conquer that enemy, then we are one. So Arjuna says, अत केन प्रयुक्तयं पापं चरति पुरुषः अनीच्छन् अपि वार्ष्णेय बलाद् इव नियोजितः. So, so now Arjuna is speaking after some time and he's saying, Ata kena prayukto ayam. And then he says he's addressing Krishna as what? Varshneya. Varshneya means, oh, descendant of Vrishni. So, Krishna comes in the Vrishni dynasty. So, oh Vrishneya, Atha, Atha, therefore, then, Kena Paryuktayam, by what one gets impelled to do certain things. What things? Papam charati purushaha. That is, how does one get impelled to do a sinful activity? Hmm? And even he says ki this sinful activity he is doing without his will. What he's saying? Anicham. Anicham api varshneya. Anicham. That means without ichha. From where does he get this? Unwillingly, he's doing this papam, sinful activity. And what is that? Balat iva niyojitaha. And balat means force. There is some strength, some force that is coming him and making him do that kind of an activity. So what is that? So let's see the translation now. What does the translation say? Arjuna says, "O descendant of Vishnu, by what is one impelled to do the sinful acts, even though unwillingly, as if engaged by some force?" This is a real problem. And this is exactly the problem that we all are facing. So we should be asking this question ourselves. What makes us do certain things which aren't good for us? Hmm? And sometimes we must be asking our questions internally. Like, see, sometimes we overeat the things that we like, but then after overeating, there's a feeling of guilt. Oh, why did I eat so much? I should not have eaten so much. Or when we go to a shopping mall, I decide beforehand that I'll limit my shopping. But when I come out, I've done excessive shopping. Oh, why did I do that? What made me do that? And there's a guilt. Or sometimes I do internet surfing. I go beyond control and I surf, and then it takes me from one destination to another destination. And then there's a guilt. Oh, why did I do that? So this is what is Arjuna asking. What is that ultimate enemy, Krishna, which is making us do anichan without any icha? Please tell me that. For example, uh, an addict doesn't want to drink, but is forced to do it against his desire also. Maybe he's drinking with his desire, but maybe sometimes he may not be wanting to drink as per his desire, but he is forced to do that. So, in one sense, this is one of the most relevant section for most of us because we are sadhakas of Bhagavad Gita. So, here we should understand that by nature, I mean, the soul, we are souls, and soul is part and parcel of super soul. Krishna says in the 15th chapter, Mame Amsha Jiva Loka Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. That means all these jivas are my part and parcel. So Krishna is pure. Then where is the question of the jivas becoming impure? So jivas are also pure. The soul is pure. So what is that becoming contaminated? That is a consciousness. The consciousness of the soul, which was pure, has somehow become impure or contaminated. So how do we understand this? So the best way to understand, Srila Prabhupada says, is that you imagine the rainwater. The rainwater is coming from the cloud. Now, when it is coming from the cloud, Prabhupada says it is actually quite clear and pure. There is no contamination. As it comes down, pure, 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 then fatak it hits the mud and then it gets muddy. So, the same water which was pure and coming from up has become muddy. And this muddy water can be once again made pure, isn't it not? By filtration process. So the same thing Prabhupada says happens to our pure spirit soul. As it comes in contact with matter, matter means that which is present in material world. So the moment we come in contact with matter, the consciousness becomes contaminated. And then one starts committing sins unwillingly because the consciousness is contaminated now. So when Arjuna is asking, what is that force? And therefore, we can understand this way that Bhagavad Gita, in one sense, is extremely or is always very, very practical because we are facing this dilemma. And Bhagavad Gita is posing the same question through Arjuna. So these addictions are taking away so much of our time, energy, and then binding us in this material world. And when we commit certain things which are not of our interest, automatically guilt and lamentations are also coming. So just like how the iron filings are getting sucked or attracted by the magnet, exactly the same way we are getting attracted by the contamination of the material world. So Arjuna is feeling, is it coming from the past impression or is it coming by the force of the super soul? What is it that is forcing? It cannot be super soul, because Krishna is super soul and Krishna is the our father, seed giving father. Aham bija pradapita, sarva yanushi konteya. Why would a father think bad about his children? No way. Could it be because of some past impressions? But that also is unlikely because mind is also a dull matter. It cannot, it can only do so much. So, what is that single enemy, Krishna, that is pulling us every now and then and making us do things which are deviating us from the path of bhakti? And the answer Krishna gives is in the next verse. We bring come now to verse number 37. Sri Bhagavanu Vacha. So now Krishna is revealing what is that enemy. Kama Esha, Krodha Esha, Rajaguna Samudbhavaha, Mahashana Mahapapma, Vidhi Inam Iha, Vairinam. Very famous verse. If possible, one should even by heart this verse. Kama Esha, Krodha Esha, Rajoguna Samudbhavaha. So here Krishna answers directly in the first line itself. It is only lust, O Arjuna, Kama Esha. And then Krishna, where does it get generated? Rajaguna Samudbhava. It is coming from the mode of passion. Kakreya? Just 1 second. There is somebody on the intercom. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I had asked for it. So let's just take it. We'll pay him later. Sorry for the interruption. Some Atiti, uninvited guest. Okay. So Krishna answers that it is only karma, that is, lust is your number one enemy. And it is coming from where? Rajoguna. And he says, further, if this lust is not fulfilled, O Arjuna, it transforms into wrath, that is anger. Krodha Esha, Kama Esha, Krodha Esha, Rajaguna, it is coming. And further, what he says, this Kama and Krodha are Mahashana, Mahapapma. Mahashana, Mahapapma, they are all endeavoring and sinful. All endeavoring sinful. And Iha, Iha Vairinam. Iha Vairinam means what? It's the greatest enemy of this world. So here clearly Krishna answers that question of Arjuna. What is that enemy which is making us do anicham activities unwillingly? Even if it is making us do, that is lust. So lust is the only cause of everything. So let's see the translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead says that it is only lust, Arjuna, which is born out of the contact of the mode of passion and later gets transformed into wrath, and which is all enduring sinful enemy of this world. So it's very, very, and this verse also gives one more important understanding of lust. It gives us the different characteristics of lust. As I can see, there are 5 characteristics mentioned in the verse itself. One is, uh, it says Rajaguna Samudbhava. That means it is born out of passion. And then it is Kamesha Krodesha. That means if not fulfilled, it will lead to anger. Then it is Mahashana, all devouring. Mahapapma, greatly sinful. And it is Iha Vairinam. That means the greatest enemy of the world. Easily given, the 5 characteristics of lust are given. So if we understand this, then we can implement this in our day-to-day lives. So how do we understand this? Again, think of the same example of pure water, muddy water. Another example we can think of is uh, milk. Milk is pure, you know. Now, from milk, when milk is coming in contact with, say, tamarind, tamarind is sour. Then what happens? Milk gets curdled and yogurt comes. So now, yogurt is also very tasty. Yogurt is a separate entity altogether. But yogurt doesn't have a its own existence. Yogurt comes only from milk, but milk has its own existence. So milk is compared to purity, and yogurt, or you can say love, and yogurt is compared to perverted conversion of love, that is lust. Okay, so in other words, lust is the perverted reflection of pure love. So in the spiritual world, it's only pure love to Krishna. The moment the soul gets contaminated by the material world, then it's like tamarind water coming in contact with milk, and then the whole entity changes and lust comes in. And instead of pure love, it gets transformed to lust. And then we see in the next verse what are the consequences of the. So, this we had discussed, if you remember, in when we were doing chapter 2, 2.62, 2.63, I said that time that this verse will chase us throughout Bhagavad Gita. Till the 18th chapter, this verse will chase us. ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसा संजयते kama kama krodhat vijayate. So basically here what it says is that uh, dhyayato vishya pumsam. That means our sight, whatever we see, we see a particular sense object, and automatically we start contemplating. Dhyayato, we start contemplating, and then that leads to an attachment. Huh? Sangas, want to take attachment. So the moment I see a cake which I like, I want to then experience in my mind how will the taste, you know, and that also if it is very very attractive looking. So then I start contemplating, I start getting attachment, and then I want to have it. I develop a desire, that is karma. And then if that desire is fulfilled, then I want to have more. I want to have more. I want to have more. It's never ending. And if the desire is not fulfilled, then automatically what happens? Anger comes. Automatically anger comes. Frustration comes. And it is never ending story. So this is what we learned at that time, this gradually leading to a fall down. And it doesn't end here. It says that from Krodha, Bhavato Samoha, and Samoha leads to Vibrama, Smriti Vibrama. That means Krodha is anger, it leads to delusion, sorry, and then delusion leads to bewilderment of memory. And Smriti Vibrama, Buddhi Nasho. Buddhi Nasho means you start losing intelligence. And when Buddhi Nasha, then the soul is getting Pranashyati, he falls down. Buddhi Nashat Pranashyati. So you can see anger is one letter short of danger. That's why anger has to be controlled, but anger you cannot control because it's a stage of, already you've acquired anger now. So therefore, you have to control at this stage of contemplation, dhyato. At that stage, the acharyas say, if you can contemplate and if you can know that this will lead me to anger, okay, then I better stop this. This is not good for me. So I should not contemplate this. And this is good for me. That is anukulasa sankalpa, pratikulasa varjanam. So at every decision that you make, an intelligent person will think, is it anukulasya or is it pratikulasya? And accordingly, he will decide whether should I take sankalpa or whether should I do varjanam. That is the important governing principle of our life. Otherwise, once you allow that to go further, then we are gone. We cannot do anything about it. Okay? Then it will lead to the greatest enemy, Krodha, and then Mahasana, Mahapapa. And then we come to the last verse of the day. Sorry, we started 10-15 minutes late. So that is, I'm trying to catch up with that now. So the last verse of the day is, so lust as the enemy has been explained by Krishna. So now Krishna is giving further understanding of this greatest enemy, and how this lust covering, basically lust is a covering. And he gives three wonderful analogies how this can be understood further, and how fortunate we are as human beings. That also Krishna will explain now. So what is that verse? Dhumena अव्रियते वहनीर यतो अदृशो मलिन च यतो उब उल्बना आवृतो गर्भास तथा तेन दम आवृतम. So धूमेना. So dhumena means smoke. Okay. So there is a smoke. It's a good analogy. He says dhumena avrite vahinir. That means just like how the smoke covers the fire. It's an analogy. Just imagine a fire and the fire is covered by smoke. So yata means similarly. Uh, Adarsho. Hmm? Darsho means mirror. Adarsho. Malena cha. That means dust is covering the mirror. Similarly, yata again. Huh? What is that? Ulbena. Ulbena avrto garbhas. Ulbena is basically embryo. So the embryo is covered by garbha, that is womb. Tata. Therefore, so yata follows by tata. So if and then, like that. So tata tenadam avritam. So therefore, similarly, a living entity is covered by various degrees of lust. So let's see the translation. It makes a meaning. As fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror is covered by dust, or as an embryo is covered by the womb, the living entity is similarly covered by different degrees of lust. So, having understood the origin of lust, now we should understand this. What are the degrees of lust? Then you'll be able to appreciate how fortunate we are to be human beings and not animals or beasts or birds and not trees. Because the degree of consciousness is differing for a tree as compared to the animals, birds, and beasts as compared to the human beings. Okay, so let's uncover this covering of lust one by one. So the three analogies which are given, let us understand that. So the first one, what is that? Smoke and fire analogy is given, right? Smoke and fire. So how do you? So even though the smoke is covering the fire is still working. The fire is not stopping. The fire is working. You can occasionally see the fire also. So the fire is still able to perform its function. What is the function of fire? The fire gives us heat and light. Okay. So the smoke is covering, but it doesn't stop the functioning of the fire. So we can still perceive the fire. So that is the way understand this analogy and park it aside for some time now. Now go to the next analogy, the dust and the mirror analogy. So the mirror is supposed to reflect an image, but when the mirror is completely covered by dust, then what happens? We cannot see the image, and thus the mirror cannot perform its function of reflection. Correct? No. So that's its function. Just like the fire function is heat and light, the mirror's function is reflection. It cannot perform the function. So fire was able to perform the function despite the covering of smoke, but the mirror, see what a beautiful analogy Krishna is giving now. But the mirror that is covered by dust cannot perform its function. But still, we are able to see the mirror, but the mirror cannot reflect. So it cannot perform the function, but the mirror can be seen. We can see that's a mirror, but unfortunately, the mirror cannot reflect. Now let's go to the again park this for some time, then we'll further analyze it. Now go to the third analogy, womb and embryo. Now the embryo is not able to perform its function at all. Like in the womb, the embryo is lying in a tight bag. Okay, the hands and legs cannot even move because it's tightly packed. Neither can we see the embryo. In the previous two cases, we were able to see the fire, we were able to see the mirror, but here I cannot see the embryo also. We are talking with naked eyes. And because there's such a thick covering around this embryo in the form of a womb. So, what does these three analogies show us? I mean, if you compare this, Krishna is giving this analogy as comparing to the covering of the lust. So, the first analogy of fire and smoke is showing shallow lust. Shallow. The lust is there, but shallow lust. The second analogy which of mirror and dust, it's a deep lust, because now we are not seeing the reflection of our face on the mirror. It's a deep lust. The covering is more deeper. And the third one, where the embryo is completely covered by the womb, it is such a super thick covering of lust, in the sense of lust covering is so deep covering that we cannot see the, neither can we see the embryo, nor can the embryo function also in terms of its movement. So you can see how the degrees of uh, lust is varying. Okay. So now the analogy that is coming here is that it's very, very clear. So you can see the tabulation which I am showing now. The fire smoke analogy compares to the lust covering inside a human being. That means it can still be reversed. This human covering of the lust can be still reversed. That means you can see the fire in the smoke and you can do something about it. And the dust on the mirror analogy is mainly pertaining to species of animals, birds and beasts, where the lust covering is so thick that it's tough to penetrate. It's very difficult to reverse that level of lust covering. And the third, where it's complete so thick that you cannot see the child in the womb, it's super thick, you cannot penetrate even after long effort. That refers to the lust covering of a tree, huh? Or you can say consciousness also, you know. So in this way, we should understand that the degree of lust in animals is stronger than the degree of lust in human beings. The degree of lust in tree is even stronger. In fact, there is a mention in the scriptures also. The trees are basically naked because they had the propensity to enjoy being naked all the time. Then the consciousness of nakedness is directly transformed into tree. And now we are so fortunate. We are in the first level, the most intellectual level, that is human beings. And if we do not understand the, we can say that how good fortune has arrived in our lives, then we are very, very unfortunate. We are comparable to the four-legged animal. Only where difference is we are having two legs. Or sometimes we are comparable to the tree also. The hippies in the 60s in the US, they were naked on the streets when Prabhupada met them. They just wanted to enjoy everything on the streets. So that is how the consciousness was covered. The lust was so much. It was just they were showing the property of a tree. And we are so fortunate that this weapon of conquering the lust for the human being has come from Goloka. And that is where our train of Goloka Express is moving on to very fast. Golokera Premadana Harinama Sankirtana. So the Harinam Mahamantra that we are all so freely and liberally chanting, thanks to Mahaprabhu who has given us and who has brought it down, Golokera Premadana, Harinam Sankirtan. So this Mahamantra will help us to remove that small covering of lust which we are having. And then the living entity will once again start showing the original fire form. The shining will come automatically. And then he will start remembering his original constitutional position, which we have forgotten now. And the original constitutional position is we are the eternal servants of the Lord. Dasa Dasa Anudas. Gopi Bharata Padakamanam Dasa Dasa Anudas. So please understand, dear friends, this lust is very, very dangerous and the number one enemy. And we should know how it attacks us also. Okay, it is not enough to understand from where lust has come. And okay, next level, we are fortunate to be human beings. And then understand that this lust is basically attacking us. Every moment it is attacking us. So it's a two-pronged attack by lust upon us. And one is called as Avarnatmika Shakti. This makes us forget our spiritual entity. It is making you forget that you are the original part and parcel of Krishna, that originally we are souls. Instead, it is making you remember, I mean, putting you into illusion. That is second two-prong attack. Second attack. It is basically uh, Prakshepa Atmika. Prakshepa Atmika. It is basically that Shakti drags you towards material illusion. What is that material illusion? That you are the body and not the soul. That's the kind of illusion it is putting us into. You know, it's something like when we go to the movie theaters to watch a movie, then how they gradually the illusion increases. Like first we go, the first stage is I mean the progression of illusion you can say. The first stage is the lights are turned off, and then we are made to forget the reality. And then when the movie starts, it drags people and completely absorbs them in the story, forgetting who we are. We are getting absorbed in the story of those film actors and actresses. So that is exactly the story of our life, dear friends. So in this way, we are actually ruining ourselves. We should be very, very careful. And therefore, Krishna, I mean, Prabhupada gives us a clear verdict to kick out these lusty desires from our heart. We have to see no evils because the eyes, we have to protect our eyes from obscene pictures. We have to speak no evil. Mouth, you must protect by speaking against any prajalpa or gossip. And then ears, you must protect by from hearing any other gossip and unwanted things and hear no evil. And therefore, Prabhupada explains.
This is very easy. To apply your senses for the service of Krishna, then your senses cannot act independently. That is control. Just like if you absorb your mind in something, you forget everything. Similarly, if you practice how to make yourself Krishna conscious, then automatically the senses and mind becomes control. It is not very difficult.
Haribol. So that is the where I wanted to end. And there was a lot of instructions, and hope the session was quite useful because I spent little time because this is very, very practical. If we are understanding this enemy, I'm telling you, it is going to help us in our practical life a long way, and it will help us even to help others. It is not only helping ourselves. Like in the flight, they announce, first you wear your mask, and then you help your child to wear a mask. So similarly, we wear the mask, which will be a kavach for us to protect us from lust, and then we help others who are very dear to us to do the same. Okay, so with that, we move on to the next section. We have limited time. I'm sorry. We'll go to the fun time now, quiz time, and we will see what we can achieve in reflections later. So I'm opening the floor for the quiz time. And here's question one for all of you. Please be alert and raise your hand when you're ready. So a man acts according to his own nature because of what is the reason? A, his due period conditioning. B, his own free will. C, because of hardware problem. C, because of software problem. And D, all of the above. It's very simple, but just think and you'll get the answer. A man acts according to his own nature because of his deep rooted conditioning, his own free will, or because of hardware problem, because of software problem, and all of the above. Yes, I can see uh, Krishna Mohan Prabhu has quickly raised his hand.
Yes, he was the first to raise his hand.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Paridhanoparam.
Dandot
The
Pranam.
answer is because his own free will.
Sorry?
B,
Uh,
answer is B, his own free will.
Okay, 1 second. I've suddenly lost my screen. I have 1 second. 1 second. Just give me a moment. Not able to see my screen now. Let me see what I can. So I'm going to view button, gallery. Oops, where is this gone now? Yes, now I'm able to see the screen. Yes, you said answer is B. B means his own free
Yes,
will.
Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji.
All right. Are you pakka? Shall I lock it?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, let me see what is the answer. The answer is A and D. Because if you remember in verse number 33, the first verse today, that was the thing instructive that Krishna says that we all have a deep rooted conditioning. We are acting because of our conditioning nature. And then Krishna also explains that it's an inner problem, which Prabhupada explains as software problem, inner problem. So therefore, the answer is deep rooted conditioning and software problem. Okay?
Oh, okay, Prabhuji. Thank you,
No,
Prabhuji.
never
Okay.
mind, never mind. See, it is always a challenge. It's always a challenge, but what is more
Yes,
important is to participate, which you have so nicely
yes,
done. Thank
Prabhuji.
you, Krishna Mohan.
Thank you.
Okay, now we move on to the question number 2. See, my questions will be always little bit tough and tricky, but they are not impossible to get the answer. Okay, now let us see. The principles to regulate raga and dvesha. So why are they needed? Principles to regulate raga and dvesha are needed. A, because unrestricted sense enjoyment is the cause of material engagement. Then B, to overcome the stumbling blocks in the path of self realization. C, so that one doesn't become entangled by sense objects. Actually, it should have been D. Huh? By mistake, I think A is coming 2 times. So this would have been D. To prevent fall down or self destruction. And it should have been E actually. All of the above.
The Pradeep has
So
raised his
now,
hands.
just 1 second, I'm just making it once again clear. Uh, so it's A, B, C, D. What I would suggest is you go by the same alphabets. Okay. For example, if you feel that second A and first A both are also correct, then you tell me A and A. If you feel that the first A and the B are correct, then you say first A and B or second A and B. Similarly, you can say all C and D and so on. Okay. So I cannot change it now. It's already made in an incorrect way, but the answers are there in the multiple choice. So you have to select one of them or most of them or whatever is apt for this question. So who wants to go? So I can see that who all have raised hands. Srinidhi,
Pradeep
Saptati,
raised first.
Anusha, Saptadeep raised first, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, Saptadeep, we'll give the chance to you. Yes, Saptadeep, go ahead.
Okay. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavad Pranam.
Yeah.
It's D or E, means all of the above. D, all of the above.
Okay, let me see. Let me see. This is a big challenge you have taken, but let me see. Yes, you're right. Absolutely right. Good. Very well, very well.
Hare Krishna.
Because if you see, all of them are actually important to be regulated by the principles, you know. So, unrestricted sense enjoyment has to be controlled by regulation. You have to overcome the stumbling blocks through regulation. One should not, regulation takes out the entanglement of sense objects. So, everything is correct. It prevents the fall down or self destruction. Perfectly right. Good. Well done.
Yeah. I like that which you mentioned that it is not a restriction, this is protection. Earlier also you mentioned that. That was very nice. Hare Krishna.
Yes. Yes, yes, good, good. Good observation. Now let's move to quiz number 3. The shoe that fits one person bites another because imitating someone else will lead to self-destruction. Performing another person's prescribed duty always brings harmony, stability, and peace to society. To perform one's own prescribed duties doesn't bring purification as compared to another person's duties? Okay, Anusha has already raised her hand, I think. Because of our Vedic caste system, which is the root cause, and E, none of the above. So, was it Anusha who raised her hand first, Prabhu?
Yes, yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. So, Anusha, please go ahead.
Maximum participation for this question. So many people have
Maximum.
raised their hands.
But we'll give chance to Anusha. Maybe she raised first because she had raised
Yes,
hand for last question also. Okay,
yes.
Anusha, go ahead. A, B, C,
A.
D. A. You said A and not A, not B, C, D, E. Okay, you said A four times. So you must be very confident. And the answer is indeed A. Good hand. Good, good, good.
Hey,
Well done, well done. Very well done. So 50 brownie points to Anusha. I think she's racing ahead in most of the quiz competition. And we will make a bifurcation of chapter 3 separate because last time we ended chapter 2 and chapter 3 in one of the, I think, session 20 or 19, I don't remember, where there was a mix of chapter 2 and chapter 3, and the quiz answers were also accordingly mixed. So we will segregate chapter 2 and the winner of chapter 2, and then chapter 3 will start from that and it will continue till this chapter ends. We will do that shortly. Okay. And maybe one of you can volunteer and help me to do that also. Now we go to the question number 4. The characteristics of lust are, think carefully, yeah? Don't jump. It is born out of anger. It is born out of ignorance. It is not the greatest enemy that binds humans. When lust is left uncontrolled, it leads to love and happiness. None of the above. And
Anusha raised first, Saptadeep is second.
but I see Srinidhi also.
Then, yes, I said Srinidhi, then Ramesh. So
Okay, so between
this
Ramesh
is
and Srinidhi,
the order.
who raised first?
Huh. So I think Srinidhi was slightly ahead of Ramesh.
Okay. So because Anusha and Saptadeep have already answered, and because
Yes.
Srinidhi has raised her hand before, maybe a fraction of a second before Ramesh, so we'll give a chance to Srinidhi. So maybe Ramesh can get a chance next in the next question also.
But I hope Ramesh doesn't say I want third umpire to decide who is. Who's.
You're the third umpire, bro. You have decided. Okay, Srinidhi, go ahead.
Prabhuji, none of the above.
None of the above. Arey, I didn't expect this from you. Are you sure? Think
Yes.
carefully. It is born out of anger, ignorance. It's not the greatest enemy. None of the above. Huh? Okay.
Um,
You want to rethink?
Actually, after lust, anger comes, no, Prabhuji. So how it can come from anger? Like that.
I don't know. I cannot give you any answer now. Answer will be coming. If you say this is the answer, I'll press that button.
None of the
So,
above.
sure? Keep your
Yes.
fingers crossed, huh? Ta- 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 ta. Answer is not coming only. When the answer is confused. Answer is none of the above. Very well done. Very well done, Srinidhi. You had a valid point. Lust comes from where? Rajaguna. Rajaguna. Passion. Okay? And not from anger. Lust leads to anger, but lust is not born out of anger. Okay? So now we go to the last question of the day. What is the last question? In the 3 degrees of coverings of lust, the analogy of dust on mirror refers to shallow lust covering, deep lust covering, very deep lust covering, compares your degree of lust in animals, birds, and beasts? None of the above. Yes, Ramesh, this time the floor is yours. You deserve it. Correct, now?
Yes, sir. Hare Krishna. B and E, B and D,
Sorry, B and?
D for doctor. B and D.
Oh, you have straight away answered, giving the answer. So let me see. Are you sure, or should you want some time?
No, no, please go ahead, sir.
Okay, that's the right answer. B and D are the right answer. Very well done. And whenever there are two answers, always a tricky thing, I mean, one can miss one. And very good. So all of you have done very well. And I thank all of you for participating. Participation is more important than getting the right or wrong answer, because that's very, very important. So very good. And maybe 5 minutes, anybody wants to share, because it's a very informative and instructive today teachings from Krishna to Arjuna. So yes, Saptadeep, go ahead. What have you learned?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanavad Pranam. That one thing which I've already said, which you have mentioned, the thing that the all the regulative principles, the four regulative principles that we follow, these are not basically to restrictions. These are protections from the modes of nature, which binds us, and this real freedom that you said is to be binded by these scriptural injunctions. So that is one of the very key learning which earlier also you have mentioned. That is very important, and I like that analogy that you gave between lust and love in the spiritual world in Golok. Means it is pure love, which is and it is the same thing, the perverted reflection. It is lust, and you gave the very beautiful example of milk and curd. I like that one. That was very beautiful. And yeah, and that thing that a bit means that thing cleared up for me. I used to think that consciousness and soul same thing, but now I can understand that the soul is pure, and the consciousness gets contaminated when it comes in contact with matter. So that means that is not the same thing, and it varies in a different body we enter into. So there is a difference between the soul and the consciousness of the soul that got cleared a bit to me. And also the three means different degrees of lust, that was quite informative, all this. Yeah. So yeah, that only I want to mention.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I think
Hare Krishna.
you have grasped the entire session so beautifully that you are able to, whatever you have assimilated, you are able to reproduce also. That's very, very nice. Keep it up. And
Yeah.
so consciousness is a symptom of soul. Okay. They are not the
Yeah.
same. So consciousness is symptom of soul. So when we say that, how do I know that the soul is present or not? Consciousness. So that's the difference between
Yeah.
living matter and dead matter. The difference is consciousness.
Mm.
The moment the soul goes away from the body, the body becomes dead matter. When the soul is there,
Mm.
there is life. That is consciousness. Okay.
Mm.
Very good.
Mm.
Very, very well. I think you have highlighted so many things so well. I'm really very happy with your
I
spiritual.
I also wanted to mention one more thing, that the society, I think that the Varna you have mentioned, right? Brahminical, Kshatriya, and different Varnas we have. So these are, I think, Srila Prabhupada mentioned in one of the lectures I heard. I think Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said at the current situation in Kali Yuga, the Varnashram system has collapsed, rightly. So I think Srila Prabhupada said the society of Shudras means. Practically, he joked that it is a society of cheaters and the cheated, something like that. On that, you know better that
Yes,
one. I remember
yes, yes,
that one a little bit
yes. Because in Kali
at the
Yuga,
current situation.
yeah, in the Shastras it is mentioned, Kalo Sudra Sambhava. That means virtually, see, in Kali Yuga, it's all complete khichdi. We don't know who is belongs to
Mm.
what Varna really. Okay, we are born in different Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, whatever, Shudra. But by our qualities and by our actions, we are all working for somebody. That's a Shudra quality.
Mm.
Okay. So
Mm.
therefore, the only way hope for us in Kali Yuga means, so that is a way. So if we cannot really follow certain rules and regulations, so therefore for Kali Yuga, Golokera Premadana Harinama Sankirtan. And this
Harinam
is
Sankirtan.
this is exactly that Mahaprabhu has brought for Kali Yuga fallen souls. So in one sense, we are fortunate people to be in Kali Yuga, most fallen people, but we have got the shortest path, flight of path to the highest peak, which is otherwise insurmountable. Vishwamitra did meditation for 60,000 years and then still he fell for Menaka. Saubramani
Mm.
spent 10,000 years underwater in meditation, and just by the first sight
Mm.
of the fish mating, his senses got agitated and
Mm.
came out, and he married some hundreds of daughters of the king. So what happened to all that? So 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 this is what actually it is. It's so durlabh. So we are all fortunate. That's why we have to realize that and then think what to do next. Okay. Okay. We go to Anusha before we wind up. Yes, Anusha, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandrat Pranams. Thank you so much. It was such a motivating and inspiring lecture. I beg to share a few points that really inspired me, Prabhuji. So I
Sure.
realized that our problem is in our software, not hardware. We are shaped by our achara and sincerely by imbibing, not just by scholarship. We have to imbibe the mood of surrender, and we have to choose consciously to do our own duty. Even if it is imperfect, it is okay, rather than imitating others. And before we slip into overdoing anything, as you mentioned, overeating, over shopping, over surfing, whatever it is, we pause and we introspect. We arrest it right at the moment it crops. And you had said that while avoiding attraction and aversion, we should remember that they are stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. And the rules gives us protective allowances, but we should not take those protective allowances as licenses and misuse it. But if we do that, we'll meet with a spiritual accident. So we should accept what is favorable for devotion and reject what is unfavorable. And lust is born of passion. And whenever we see milk and curd, we remember this. We're going to remember this that lust is a perverted reflection of love. And so we guard our purity, purity like milk. And so you had also mentioned that we should not do anything whimsically from our own mind. Rather, we should be in the guidance of our instructing spiritual masters, who, with their loving guidance, help us live within the compound wall of our scripture. That compound wall was very attractive to me. I'll remember that. We trust that, and with sacred discipline, it will protect us and lead us very safely, handhold us safely to the home of Krishna in the Goloka Express. Thank you, Prabhuji.
So well said. So well said. Wonderful. All glories to you. You have said very nicely. Wonderful. I mean, I couldn't have summarized my own session so beautifully. And I just wanted to add one point. While between milk and curd, we understood that example. But see the beauty. Now, yogurt cannot be transformed back to milk, correct? Can it be transformed? No. But lust can be transformed back to love. Because Narottam Das Thakur says, Narottam Das Thakur says in Prema Bhakti Chandrika that Kama Krishna Sevarpane. That means I will now engage my lusty propensity in the service of the Lord, in the service of Guru. So what happens is automatically this lust gets purified and it transforms without your knowledge into love, pure love. So that is where the consciousness becomes once again pure and you are eligible to go back home, back to Godhead in the spiritual world. So isn't that so wonderful to know that otherwise it's a hopeless condition for us. We are all, saying, oh, butter ho gaya, yogurt ho gaya, दूध नहीं हो सकता है. No, we can get transformed back. That's the beauty of this Mahamantra. Okay. So thank you all very much and thanks for staying back so late. And we'll end up now. and we'll meet again next Saturday. Prabhuji, Shyam Sundar Prabhu will lead us through session number 24. And until then, we say Tata, goodbye. And Vancha Kalpataru Vyascha, Kripa Sindhu Vaivcha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo. Have a nice weekend, all of you. A Krishna conscious weekend. Hare Krishna. Okay, I'm
Hare
close.
Krishna.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.